Hello movie fans, today marks the 20th anniversary for everyone's favorite movie sequels, including mine, DreamWorks SHREK 2 and Sony's SPIDERMAN 2. So today we're going to break down why these movies were so great within the past 2 decades. Known as 2 of the best movie sequels of all time, as we look back at both, they have a lot of similarities. And every great sequel, it must outdo the first, giving the protagonists more weight and character development. The introduction to the side characters play a big part that help the movie navigate where the story is going. They also include the film to have more threats or humor, such as Doc Ock, the fairy godmother, Puss in Boots, or Fiona's parents, or even introducing new side plots. It's those elements in the sequels that make it worthy of being made in the first place, giving us something new and exciting, but also relating to the first, connecting it in an organic way without feeling forced. The 2 main characters, SHREK and Spider-Man, I never thought I'd say that in the same sentence, but here we are, both wanting to see a change in their life. What they would think at first would be an improvement. And that's something we as humans can relate to, always wanting something better. And that's not always the case. Change isn't always better. Peter Parker craving a non-heroic life just to settle down. Growing up being an outcast in high school, he just wanted an ordinary life for once. And even though his powers may have seemed to improve his life at first, and self-worth, it still wasn't enough. And still having to handle the pressures of being different, much like SHREK. While they decided to make the choice to change, SHREK's insecurities were brought to light when Fiona's father was arrogantly judging them throughout the whole movie, making him think past the swamp and into his future with Fiona, which could have been a good thing, but seeing that it was blind ignorance, it didn't help the issue. Meanwhile, Peter Parker, struggling with the death of his uncle and feeling guilt towards his Aunt May's grief, also reflecting on what Uncle Ben had said, with great power comes great responsibility, Peter started to feel responsible for Uncle Ben's death, also looking into his own future and his desires and needs. Yet SHREK's choice is more to improve the life of Fiona and less for himself. The social commentary and themes in both films have a lot of layers, much like onions and cake. SHREK movies have always had a lot of adult humor that's gone over our heads growing up, and it still maintains a balanced substance for the whole family. The same can be said for Spider-Man 2. In both, we see a vulnerable side to these characters, where they're both tested with raised questions of who they want to be, wanting a better life, coming to terms with it, and instead of wanting acceptance from others, learning to accept yourself, as both hero or ogre. Both facing ridicule, but by the end, love triumphs all. Peter Parker gets the girl of his dreams, Mary Jane, and SHREK gets his ogre, Fiona. Sorry, it just sounds funny the way I said that. It's a callback to the first while also supporting its own messages, standing on its own and not using the first for a crutch. In SHREK 2, right after their honeymoon, they're already showing signs of conflict, emphasizing that no relationship is perfect, even after they're happily ever after. Fiona also realizing that SHREK, being an ogre and may act like it, but still loves him regardless. Being with a hero or an ogre isn't no picnic, I'm sure, being either chased by Green Goblin, Doc Ock, or pitchforks. Even the film's villain in SHREK 2, the fairy godmother, she is right. You're an ogre, SHREK, and that's something no amount of potion is ever going to change. And even though her intent is wrong, what she's saying is true. Where she's trying to discourage SHREK from being with Fiona, Aunt May's wise words of being steady is what saves the day at the end of the movie, as Peter then passes that knowledge on to Doc Ock. And at Mary Jane's speech at the end, it's wrong to only be part of ourselves, only half alive. And that concludes the moral of the story altogether, with both films. They take the good with the bad, and they won't accept anything any different, in sickness and in health, as they say. Both films are just flawless in filmmaking, and both major improvements. And that's a huge feat to beat when the first are so good to begin with. And as you look at the later sequels, that's why they're just not as good. They're not bad, but they just can't compare because they peaked too soon. Now, if you excuse me, I have some movies to watch. But please keep in touch. I cover everything from movies, trailers, behind the scenes. So if you're a cinematic addict like me, stay tuned.